Here we go. We're being recorded. Okay, everyone. Forgiveness and clearing through something called the Ho'oponopono prayer. And as you can see in this image, it has the prayer actually, and most of you probably have heard about it, but if you haven't, don't worry about it. The prayer is simple. It's a 4-phrase prayer. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you and thank you. And if you haven't heard this before, don't let it turn you off with the words right now, because we'll get into that. So let's talk about forgiveness. So I want to get this out of the way. I want to talk about what forgiveness is. Okay, it's thought to be the realm of religions. There's a quote from the New Testament: "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." So forgiveness. Jesus taught us to forgive. It's got to come at a price. If I forgive somebody or something, it's going to be difficult for me. Can everyone forgive? Gandhi said the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. What is forgiveness? Forgiveness is giving up the hope. I got a lot of quotes in here because I actually took the best ones, and some I maybe have a little too many, but I love them all. So forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been anything different. And when we hold on to things, that's really, it's like, okay, how can we change this? It's already happened. You can't. What is forgiveness? Has nothing to do with absolving a criminal of his crimes. Everything to do with relieving oneself of the burden of being a victim, letting go of the pain and transforming oneself. True. When you're holding on to something, you are not letting yourself free. Okay, you're actually keeping yourself imprisoned. Forgiveness isn't something we do for others, and it's a big deal because I've been teaching this for years, and I've had a lot of classes. And when I focus on the forgiveness thing, and believe me, I run into a lot of people who you would say that the people who have wronged them don't deserve to be forgiven. It's not something we do for others. We don't forgive someone, absolve something for what they did. We do it so we can get well and move on. There's no love without forgiveness, and there's no forgiveness without love. I believe this is true. I mean, part of forgiveness is having love, even if you don't love that person directly. When you're allowed to let it go, you're actually feeling the love inside yourself. I love this one. I picked this up somewhere. It's the F-bomb, forgiveness, not the other F-bomb. The power of forgiveness. This is an interesting one. Forgiveness is the economy of the heart. It saves the expense of anger and the cost of hatred and the waste of spirits. I think a CPA wrote that. The spiritual CPA, of course. Forgiveness is above all a personal choice. And, it is a choice, but some people don't think they have the choice. They think they can't let go of this. They just can't let go of the horrid things that happen to them. It's the decision of the heart to go against the natural instinct. That's the natural instinct, is to keep it and to fight. What is forgiveness again? I'll sum it up here. Forgiveness is something that has everything to do with releasing oneself from a burden or from something that has taken control. Really, when you're holding on to something, when someone has done you wrong and you're holding on to it, it has control over us, doesn't it? When you forgive, you clear this thing that has taken control. You clear whatever it is when you can find your way to forgiveness. Now, how does forgiveness allow us to feel? Well, this is a great picture. I mean, this is elation. when you can let go. And I'm going to use that term let go because some people will see that a little different as forgiveness, but truly it's the same thing. You're going to let go of something you're holding on to, something you're there. And people have this preconception that when they forgive somebody, they have to go over to them in their face and say, hey, you know that really evil, terrible thing you did to me on purpose? I forgive you. No, you don't have to do that. It's really a letting go, and you look like you have this feeling like this woman does, where everything got lifted. Forgiveness is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. I couldn't say that any better than that. I've already alluded to this. It's we are imprisoned by what we keep, what we hold on to. All right, you're all on mute, but I hear you laughing. Could you forgive me? You know, when we're talking about forgiving something or somebody, we often really think of that person, and we're thinking we're doing something for them. And as we said earlier, it's not for them, it's for you. I love this for a reason that I find it a little, I'll just say absurd. Just let it go, then forgive. It's better that way to live. It's a nice poem. A grudge is like a cancer, true. It might be the death of you. Forgive, forget, set it free, and let the wind carry it out to sea. It's a great poem. It sounds so good. But it talks like forgiveness is so easy to do. That very first four words, just let it go. A lot of you are healing practitioners, and your clients will come in, and their family and friends, all good meaning, will have told them a million times, hey, just let it go, huh? Just release it. Let it go. And it's not that easy. It's really not that easy. This poem is nice. It makes it sound like it's so easy. Forgive, forget, set it free. Let the wind carry it out to sea. And you know, a good healing practitioner can make it happen that way. But when we're talking about ourselves, when we're talking about the individuals who have this, it's really not that easy. And for ourselves too, if we're not have another practitioner helping us with it. What can forgiveness do? Anger makes you smaller, while forgiveness forces you to grow beyond what you are. It really is a personal growth thing when you can forgive something really big. We've always heard that thing when we're growing up and say, you be the bigger person, you be the bigger person. Well, in that case, nobody wants to be the bigger person. They don't want to be the ones speak first and say, I'm sorry, or whatever it is. Actually ask for forgiveness or forgive someone else. But when you can forgive, you grow beyond what you are. Let's talk about anger, because most of the time when we're holding on to something, the predominant emotion is anger when we can't let go and forgive somebody, because anger is really strong. You know, we often think of anger as a negative emotion, and it can cause all sorts of havoc in our lives. But from a vibrational standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, it can give strength into your body. It can give you strength in a small period of time. And so sometimes we or our subconscious will use anger for just to get hold of situations and stuff like that. But when we're holding on to something, usually we are angry about what happened. But, you know, anger has its negative qualities. Mostly all of it is negative qualities with anger, but digestive problems such as abdominal pain, headaches, insomnia, decreased anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, skin problems, heart attack, stroke, you not being able to feel really good. No, that's the least thing. So yeah, anger is something worth trying to get rid of. And if it's because you are not letting go of something, these are great reasons to let go. I know what a lot of you, I'm preaching to the choir. Why forgiveness? Hang on to resentment is letting someone you despise live rent free in your head. I love that one. You're actually, when you're hanging on to it, you know, it really is hurting you a whole lot more than it hurts anybody else. Holding on to anger, resentment, and hurt only gives you tense muscles, and we all know that, a headache and a sore jaw from clenching your teeth. Forgiveness gives you back the laughter and the lightness in your life. And it truly does. It truly does. Resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Oh, Carrie, yeah, that's perfect. But it is. You hold on to resentment. You hold on to resentment, and you know you're thinking it's hurting the other person, and they're gonna die, and you're the one dying. Why forgiveness? Without forgiveness, life is governed by an endless cycle of resentment and retaliation. Mm-hmm. And we know that at a high level, right? With governments holding on to their resentments towards other governments. And I'm not, you know, we can think of right offhand people holding on to things, you know, for the U.S. But let's look back at some of the things out in the Mediterranean. I believe Greece and Turkey have been holding on to resentment for hundreds of years. And in the Middle East, some of the Arab states have been holding on to resentment for thousands of years. It's an endless cycle when we can't forgive. If you do not bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. But if you bring forth what is within you, it will heal you. Bringing forth that ability to let go. Holding on to anger is like grasping at a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at somebody else. You are the one who gets burnt. I love that metaphor. That is wonderful, because when we hold on to resentment, it's exactly what happens. Yet, it's really it's human nature, and I've worked with so many people, and so many people they have the hardest time saying, "I deserve to hold on to this. They deserve my anger," and it's human nature, and it's really difficult. And even bringing the logic of what, you know, anger and resentment will do to you doesn't get through to some people. How does forgiveness fit in? When we forgive, we let go, we clear resentment, allow ourselves to move on. This is a big thing. When I first got married, I found out that there was an uncle in my wife's family that she hadn't seen for years. Her father and his brother had an argument about something, and it was really trivial, and they hadn't talked for 30 years. Family, right? Hadn't talked for 30 years. And I said it's absurd. Now, before both of them died, they got a little amiable at some of the reunions that we had. You know, the other brother would show up when he moved back up north, and they got to talking, and I said, "Oh my God, that's wonderful." Not going to your grave holding on to these things. Allow ourselves to be able to love fully and become right with ourselves in the world. Become right with ourselves in the world. I've been talking a lot about people not being able to let go. And I have worked with people, and I've had students of this process who have been physically abused, sexually abused, raped. And it's a really tough thing. But when they learn and when they realize they don't have to go to that person, they don't have to allow that person ever in their lives again if they don't want to, but what they have to let go is the hatred. Up here in the north, in Massachusetts, we had this gentleman, I use the term loosely, we had this monster, Whitey Bulger, was captured. That was national news. He came back here and brought up all sorts of things all over again. And I got to see some of the people who lost family 40 years ago. And the anger in them was just as fresh as if it had happened a couple of weeks ago. It was difficult. You know, these people have been living all these years with the hurt and the pain and God knows what kind of, what kind of ailments they got from all that. And you might say, well, that's something that they felt they deserved to hold on to. They lost someone at a young age. Of course they deserve to be angry. Well, let me tell you another story. There was a movie made about this. It's called Amazing Grace, and it's not the movie about the person who wrote the story or about slavery or anything like that. It's about the Amish. Before it really started to become almost an epidemic of gun shootings in schools and murders in schools. This happened in the 90s. I think it was before Columbine. One of the adults that was working at one of the Amish schools, and the Amish schools are very small schools, all different ages in one class, and maybe have 10 kids at the most. One of the adults went in there, and he was ill. He was stressed and had all sorts of problems. Went in there with his gun and shot and killed 5 children, various ages. And really tough thing for anyone to take. I would not want to wish that on anyone, and nor would I ever want to go through that. But there was another side that not everybody knew was there, and not everybody knew happened, was that person who did all this, and he committed suicide afterwards. That person who did all this was also a father and a husband, and he left behind his wife and his child with nothing, and with all this hatred from the public. You got to know that you're related to someone who did such a horrific thing, and you know what happened? The parents of these children in the Amish community in general took them in. This is the most dramatic example of really walking the talk when it comes to forgiveness. And I'm sure it wasn't that easy. But when the community came together to help this poor woman and the child who it was horrific for them as well. The fact that, their father and husband is the one who killed all these other children. Yet they came together and helped this poor woman and child. So forgiveness at the most extreme level can be done. There's examples of that. Now let's talk about this thing called Ho'oponopono. First of all, I promise everybody who comes here that I'm going to teach them how to say it. So it's Ho, like the garden tool. Oponopono. Just say Pono, but put an O in front of it. So it's Ho'oponopono. If you want to come off mute and show me that you can say it, I'm very happy to hear it, because we still don't have that many people on, and that's great. Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Guys. And you can get it, once you get good at it, you can say it real fast. Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian process of forgiveness. And ho'o means to make. All right, to make something. Pono means right. So ho'opono means to make something right. And when Hawaiians put two of the same words together, it enforces it a lot. So to make doubly right, to make really right. So ho'oponopono means to make right, really right. When I say right, I don't mean like right the opposite of wrong. I mean like right when you feel right, when things are right. You know. Um, and I interpret this ho'oponopono, having two ponos, means to make right for me and right for the people around me. Right for me and right for the people around me. So for you and me. Now I'm going to give you a short version of the story where this became popularized in our culture, in the Western culture, generally popularized because people knew what Ho'oponopono was. But there is a book called Zero Limits written by Joe Vitale. Joe Vitale is or was a hypnotist just like myself. But he's claim to fame, or what made him really popular, was being on the movie The Secret. And if you hadn't seen The Secret, it's probably because it's been a secret. So it's on Netflix, I believe. Okay, if you haven't seen it, see it. It's all about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is something that goes back to the New Thought age, which was at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. And there's a lot of great authors that would write about how they attracted this great stuff into their lives. So Joe Vitale got involved in this, and he became famous that way. And then somehow he got involved with this guy named Dr. Hugh Len. Dr. Hugh Len is Hawaiian. He's a psychiatrist from Hawaii. And there was one psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane. I know I get that out. And no one would work there, and they went looking around, and they were looking around for psychiatrists, and they finally approached him. And he said, okay, I will take this position on a couple of conditions. One is I don't see any of the inmates for any therapy in person or in groups. Okay? And two, I'm going to spend most of my time in the office. They were so desperate, they took the absurd type of offer from him. And what he did is he spent most of his time in the office going through the details of each and every single person in there. Now, at the time, they were looking for the psychiatrist. They couldn't get one, but they also couldn't get many other people either. The recidivism rate was horrible. The morale was incredibly low. Prisoners were extremely dangerous, extremely violent. No one was left out of the ward. It was locked down. And no one ever got out of there into general population, into other things. So he went there, and he spent his time going over everybody's files over and over again. And after 3 months, things started to change. The morale picked up. The recidivism rate had stopped, and the people were staying. And the violence had cut down tremendously. I think it was after 2 years, there was only 2 inmates left at that place. Everyone else had gone out, either paroled or into general community. It was a miracle, or so it looked like a miracle. So Dr. Ulen says, okay, this has to do with this whole Ho'oponopono process, which he learned from another Hawaiian named Morna Simeon. Morna Simeon was a very practicing Hawaiian. She practiced a lot of the old cultures, and she created from the old cultures, from the process of Ho'oponopono. And let me spend just 2 seconds to say how Ho'oponopono worked in the traditional Hawaiian culture. If something was wrong in a community, the communities were tribes, right? And they were really tight knit. So if something was wrong in a family, it affected the rest of the community. So whenever anything was wrong, either with a family or between two families or whatever it is, the kumu in the village had the one responsible for this type of stuff had to come over and get it resolved, and they wouldn't leave until it was resolved. So things had to happen between the two parties, and they had to let go of what they had. So that was the idea of Ho'oponopono. And when they were talking about making things right, they weren't just talking about for the individuals, they were talking about for the communities. And that's why this was such an important thing. So Mona Simeona took some prayers that they had, and she came out with this very short version of this prayer in this process that Dr. Yulin used. And let's take a look at what this is. It's 4 simple phrases. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. Now, first of all, you've probably got 2 questions in your head. One is, what does a psychiatrist working with a bunch of criminally insane have to do with forgiveness? What in the world would he have to forgive them for? Of course, well, first of all, let's think about that. They didn't do anything to him, but they did horrific things, right? They did horrific things to other people. So when you see that, when you watch the news and you see those kind of things, doesn't anger bubble up? Usually does, and sadness and other things, right? So he was all about clearing this, even though that nothing happened to him. His thought process, and this is really important, is if you are exposed to something, you hear something, you see something, and it triggers you, and it triggers an emotion, the only way that emotion can be triggered is if there's a memory somewhere deep down. Okay? Because if you've never experienced this type of thing before, you wouldn't have that emotion. It just wouldn't be there. So Dr. Yulin said, I have this here, and I'm contributing in a way to the rest of it with my emotion. So he said these 4 phrases. Now, here's another very, very critical and very important thing. The I'm sorry and please forgive me. Oh my goodness. We're not forgiving somebody here, we're asking for forgiveness. Why in the world would you ask for forgiveness from somebody who wronged you, somebody who hurt you? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. This is not directed, all these 4 things are not directed at that person. Big mistake most people make. Big mistake. They don't get trained well, they hear how this works and they try this off, and when they're saying I'm sorry and please forgive me, they're thinking of that person. Those 4 phrases are not to the person or group or thing that makes you angry. These 4 phrases are to Source, to God, to universe, to the Creator, however you see that thing. Okay? However you see that, that's what these 4 phrases are for. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. Now let's, for a second, we'll forget the first 2 and go to the last 2. These are the 2 incredible phrases to say I love you to anyone is really powerful, isn't it? The love is a really powerful emotion, but you know what else is a really powerful emotion? Gratitude. Those are the 2 most powerful emotions in the universe as far as I'm concerned. So when you're saying I love you and thank you, and you're saying it to Source, you're saying it to Creator, guess what? As above, so is below. When you say that to Source, to Creator, to God, you're also saying it to yourself. Really, really powerful. Really powerful. But then you're going to look at the first two phrases and say, why am I saying I'm sorry? And please forgive me, to God, to the Creator, to the universe. Why am I saying that? Well, remember I said Dr. Ulan said it's because of the memory you have. That's the only reason you should be able to feel that emotion, that negative emotion. So what he's doing is he's clearing by saying, hey, I'm sorry I'm feeling this. I shouldn't be feeling this. Please forgive me for doing that. So that's how that works. Okay, this is a prayer, if not just for forgiving, by the way. If you haven't figured it out as I'm talking about it, it's more so for letting go and clearing of anything. So we talk about this as forgiveness. We talk about Ho'oponopono as forgiveness. And truly there is a more in-depth Ho'oponopono that not the rest of the world doesn't know. Just a few people that have trained in Huna really understand. And it really is letting go and forgiving a person or persons. This prayer, however, is about letting go of stuff within us. We already talked about resentment as anger, right? So it doesn't have to be that someone does something to you. It can be as simple as, hey, you saw something and it made you angry. And it could have been someone doing something to somebody else. But the fact that it made you angry means that you've got a memory in there and you're holding on to anger somewhere. And that's why it's worth letting go. But not just anger. There's other emotions that you can let go of, you should let go of, that are harmful. They're non-resourceful. When an emotion doesn't offer you a good resource, then you don't need it because it gets in the way when you really need something. Sadness and fear and guilt, they all get in the way when you should be at the top of your game, when you need to have compassion, when you need to help somebody or help yourself. So why not, when you realize you have these emotions, and then realize the only reason I have these emotions is because it's in me from something from a long time ago. Maybe it's when you were a child that memory comes from, or maybe it's before you were a child. Maybe it's from when you were in the womb, or maybe it's from a past life or an ancestral life. It doesn't matter. But if you come to realize that you have it, then you can say the prayer and let go of it. Now let's take a better look. And I'll show you my version of this prayer. And I've been doing this for, it's got to be 6-7 years now. And I've been teaching it for that long. I'm sorry. I know I'm better than this. And I should not feel or act this way. And I know that language is not the best language in certain situations. But here's where I'm coming from. When we are born, for the most part, we're an open book, we're a clean slate, aren't we? Okay, we can go into, well, maybe we got some stuff in our DNA from ancestors or past lives. We can go a little bit into that, but that's little stuff. That's tiny stuff. We're a clean slate. But then we start living and we start growing up and we have these people that are in charge of us, and they start putting down the rules and trying to keep us safe, but not always in the right and proper way, and we're picking up all this baggage along the way. It's almost like as we're growing up, we got this rake that we're carrying behind us, but it's on the ground and it's accumulating and it's accumulating and it's accumulating. And as we live and as we grow, we also pick up all this baggage, all these memories with all these negative emotions. So yes, we were born the image of Creator, born the image of God. So, and I know it was intended for us to actually shine that light, not have it buried with all the garbage. So I say, I know I'm better than this, and I should not feel or act this way. Right? So that's where the I'm sorry comes from. And here's the better one. Please forgive me. And then I'll say, please clear this memory, feeling, or thought from me. Please do it. I'd like to clear this. I'd like to be the person I'm meant to be. And then I love you and thank you. And you know what you can do when you say the I love you and thank you is I love you because I know you're going to do this for me, and thank you for having done this for me. In the moment, you do that. Now you're going to ask, oh, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you and thank you. What did I say at once? No, actually you say it for a minute or two with as much feeling and as much passion for the meaning of what's going on. And let that clear. And it's really a wonderful experience. All right, I'm gonna back this up right here. I'm going to go back to this and say, okay, what is this going to do? How is this going to work? All right, let me tell you how I use it. When I walk, and I got to get back to doing some more walking and kind of meditation and stuff like that. But I'll go through my head, okay, who's pissed me off today? That's where I start off, right? Is my son or my daughter or someone I was working with or someone I ran into. All right, and I'll think about them, and then I'll think about how I'm feeling, and then I'll say, not to them, to Source, to God, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. I'm sorry. I know I'm better than this. Please forgive me. Please clear this memory, clear this feeling and thought from me. I love you and thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. And pretty soon I'm not feeling this feeling anymore. It's gone. And then I'll say, okay, who else? What else? And so I'll go through all the people in my life for that day and just kind of like analyze who has made me feel, and they didn't make me feel, by the way, but who has, when I've thought of them, when something, I've interacted with them or heard them or whatever, I've felt this. And by the way, people don't make you feel anything, because the only way you feel something is when you've got something inside of you. And that's how it works. So then you say, hey, let me release this. There's energy here. Now, granted, I'll tell you psychologically, if you've got this mantra, you've got this chant that you're doing, and you're bringing emotion to it, and you're bringing some even clearer thought to it, you're not going to be able to hold on to that other emotion. All right, it's going to break the pattern. It's going to break through the neural pathways that it was holding on to, and it's going to go away. So there is a psychological, even physiological thing that's going on here, but it's very spiritual as well. So I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. And you just say that for a few minutes. And here's the thing you're going to find that is really cool, because you're going to start to become aware of when you should use this prayer. And then you're going to use the prayer. But that the awareness is going to get so astute, it's going to get so much a part of you that you're going to say, all of a sudden you'll have things like this judgment. You're going to see someone walking down the street and you're going to recognize the judgment. And before you never recognized it, you just judged. So you're going to be able to recognize all these feelings that come up. You used to control you. You used to actually have you think certain things and act a certain way. And you're going to be recognizing them right away, and you're going to be clearing them. And after a while, you're going to be interacting with people in a much different way. It's just an amazingly and very honest way to go through life. Now, again, to reinforce the I'm sorry, it's to Source. It's not to that person. It's not to anyone else. And please forgive me again. But I still have had a few people to come back to me and say, I can't deal with the I'm sorry.
please forgive me. So I walk around saying, I love you and thank you to God. And it's an amazing feeling I get. My days are amazing. I said, that's great. Wonderful. Continue doing that. But let me tell you, I'll tell you a story or two. I taught this when I first started teaching this years and years ago. A friend of mine, he was having some issues with his son, his older adult son, and they just hadn't been getting along for a long, long time, and they weren't talking anymore. And when they did talk, it was always anger, it was always things. He started using this prayer and thinking about his son, the feelings that he would have for his son, and the feelings his son would have back. And he started saying this prayer, I'm sorry, please forgive me. It's the source to God, and I love you and thank you. And he said after a week, his son called him up, and they started having rational, wonderful father-son discussions again. I said, that's incredible. That's just really, really cool. Now, before I move forward, the one other thing I'm going to address is the thing that you probably all had in your mind with the story of Dr. Yulin. Okay? Dr. Yulin was clearing stuff out of him, so he was making changes for himself. But how in the heck was he making changes externally to the prisoners and to the environment and everything else? Well, first of all, the book title, Zero Limits, as Dr. Yulin says, when you can clear everything, you're at one with God. The same thing as enlightenment. So the more you clear, the better and closer you become with Source, with Universe, with God. And that has an energy in itself. But also, when you clear stuff from yourself, you tend to vibrate at a different level, and people around you tend to feel it. And that's exactly what happened here. When he's clearing the stuff from himself that had to do with the behaviors of the prisoners, it also affected the prisoners. It's just, I can't explain why and how. There's some universal law there that says, okay, you've let go of the feelings around my behavior. Maybe my behavior doesn't have to happen anymore. I don't know. But it was a really powerful thing. So there have been a lot of people who have done this prayer over and over and over again, and have found that the people around them and the environment around them seems to change for the better. So when you're doing this, when you're saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you and thank you, it's not just to clear things from you for you. It also is to help the people around you. We all know that when you're in a better mood, it's so much better for the people around you. We do know that, and we just can't help it any other way. So this little prayer is extremely powerful. It's incredibly powerful. Okay. Now, I don't care if you're muted or not. I'd like to ask you to follow along with me, and we'll spend a minute, and you can follow with me and repeat after what I say, okay? I want you to think of something in your life that has gotten you angry, someone in your life that has gotten you to feel, it doesn't have to be angry, to feel negatively. All right, you might be hurt. You might be fearful. You might be sad. You could be guilty. So it doesn't have to be anger. It could be any negative feeling that you don't want to have anymore. And you put it on that other person that they caused this. So bring that to mind now. Bring that other person to mind. And that feeling to mind. Okay? And when we start this, and you're saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you, you then take your focus off that other person and focus it to however you refer to as the creator, source, universe, God, Jesus, however you refer it. And that's where this I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you come from. So now that you're feeling this, let's spend a minute or two and practice this. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Say this out loud. I love you and thank you. And if you're on a subway, don't worry about it. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. And I switch it up. And I'm using emotion as much as I can to be as sincere as I can. I'm sorry. I know that I'm better than this. I know that I should not feel or act this way. Please forgive me. Please clear this memory, feeling, or thought from me. I love you and thank you. I'm sorry. I know that I'm better than this. I shouldn't feel or act this way at all. I am so much better than this. Please forgive me. Clear this memory from me, this feeling and this thought from me. I love you and thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. Remember, this is to source, to no one else. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. And let's do this a couple more times. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you. Okay. If you guys want to unmute to give any comments on that, feel free. I'll unmute everybody. How's that? Anyone have any comments on that?
Hey, this is Neil. It's definitely emotional, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And when the emotions come, I think the biggest part is those last two phrases. I love you and thank you. And you know, when I'm doing this with my family, with the things that I might have gotten hurt by, yeah, I love you and thank you, and point back to them. I can't help it, right? But you start off with the I'm sorry and please forgive me to source, and I love you and thank you points back to them. Any other comments? Did you like that?
It felt
Go ahead.
Sheila. I felt like I'm sorry, and then after I said I know I'm better than this, and then please forgive me, please clear this memory.
Mm-hmm.
I liked doing that part.
Do you like that part?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and I actually, that works for me. I've been doing this for so many years. I actually had to, I wanted to embellish this, and it's the reason I'm saying I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry I'm feeling this way.
Exactly.
And the please forgive me really is, I'm looking to clear this stuff up. I'm looking to clear this stuff up. So that's the way I bring that language in. My subconscious gets it better than when I do that, right? So yeah, please let me clear this from me. So cool. Anybody else have any comments? Okay. So when to use this? And we'll go back, and I have some specifics, but I want to give you, actually, I'll talk about it when we go to the when to use this, because I have some really interesting applications for this, other than I'm just want to get rid of some negative emotions in the moment. You can do this all day long, any time of the day. You don't have to say it out loud. If you're on a subway, like I said, it's a little strange. But you can say it quietly. You can say it in your head, and that's fine. I'm going to play this for just a moment. We're running till 8:30, by the way, in case most of you didn't know. An hour and a half. I'm just going to play 2 minutes of this. If you want to take a note, you can Google this. Google Ho'oponopono song, and it's from Ho'oponopono International, and Aman Risuki Sito. Don't ask me how to pronounce it, but it's Japanese in origin, right? And I believe there's really very few audios and videos out there that called Ho'oponopono song. So I'm just gonna change the screen for a moment. Oh, yeah, commercial, sorry.
Don't have connection to.
Really had nothing to do with it. But this is a video. I think my bandwidth is maybe a little slow, so I'm going to get a couple of days. But this makes a phenomenal meditation. And I use this meditation when I do classes like this.
Kevin, I can't hear it.
Okay. It's 9 minutes long. I wasn't going to go through the whole thing. Well, I might have broke my. Can someone tell me if they can still see the screen?
Yes.
Beautiful. Fantastic. So I use that as a meditation, and when I'm meditating, I'm going through the words. By the way, those of you that have done some studies of this or whatever, you'll know that those 4 phrases can be said in any order, and it doesn't matter. But I like the order of first asking for forgiveness and clearing, and then saying I love you and thank you, because I say I love you and thank you with the intention that, yeah, I am positive that you're granting me this wish and this, forgiving me. So I do like that order. So let's look at how Ho'oponopono is used in everyday life. Every time you feel angry or hurtful towards another person, every time you find yourself being judgmental, and this is really cool, because in my own life, I found that this is one of the things that I was doing and I wasn't aware of it, and it allowed me to become really well aware of it and allowed me to decrease it. I can't say that I'm not judgmental totally, but I become aware of it. I was just, there was just, yesterday, I was looking at this gentleman who because of, the way he looked, the way he's dressed, I automatically figured, well, he must be just visiting here and he might be unemployed or whatever. That's a judgment, right? It may be harmless if it's just in my head, but you let judgments like that continue on, and they get worse and worse until there are things that actually drive your actions, and you don't want that. So this, like I said, it helps you identify when you judge. I want to tell you truthfully, and I mean this. I use this, maybe not every single day, but I use this so often, and it's been, like I said, 7 years or so since I've been doing this. And so when I find myself thinking something I shouldn't be thinking, feeling something I don't want to, I shouldn't be feeling, I do this, and it's a great practice. Every time you feel negative in some way because of the actions of others, every time you beat yourself up for something, how's that? Forget everybody else doing something that makes you mad. How about you doing something that makes you mad? Imagine yourself catching yourself beating yourself up from now on, and then that decreasing and just about always going away. Wouldn't that be cool? Every time you find yourself doubting your ability at work. So here we're going from those really serious negative emotions to something that we wouldn't think of as too serious, but it is serious. Hey, right, I might not be able to do that. I don't think I'm good enough for that. And then I say, I'm meant to be better than this. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Clear that silly thought from my head. So you can get rid of self-limiting beliefs that way. And every time you find yourself limiting you, it's an incredible little tool, right? As a hypnotherapist, yes, I'm there for people. I'm there to help people, but they're not in my office every day of the week. They're not in my office every week of the year. So what do people do? What do I do when I don't have another hypnotist around? And believe me, I know a lot of hypnotists, and I have so many incredibly wonderful friends that are healers, but they're not always around. So, Ho'oponopono. And believe me, you do feel right after you've done this for a little while, when you get in the habit of it. Now, I got a different twist on this now. I've created more twists because I see Ho'oponopono as taking personal responsibility, not just trying to heal myself, trying to get this crap out from inside of me that shouldn't be there, but because I now know that how I feel and how I think can affect others, can affect situations. I have a responsibility, don't I? And I know there's several people on this phone right now that already know that. And if you know that, if it's been exposed to you that, hey, how you feel and how you think affect the people around you, that's a big responsibility. It's not just you. So that becomes a big responsibility now. Now, any of you see The Matrix, I believe it's the blue pill. Okay, I should have warned you at the very beginning that I'm going to be telling you some stuff. And when you realize this stuff, like this is taking personal responsibility, it's now up to you. So, yes. If I can clear some stuff and make the world around me better, and therefore make it better for the people around me, even if it's just a little. And really, it usually just starts off just a tiny bit. Even if it's just a tiny bit, that's all you need to know, and you can make it better. We must be the change we wish to see in the world. I love that. It's one of my favorite quotes from Gandhi, because he goes further and says, you want to, or this is changed around a little bit and says, you want to change the world, start with yourself. Start internally. So let me tell you how I use this and how I practice this, other than what I've already told you. There's a behavior that I actually tell most of my clients, and I think everybody else here either knows or tells other people, hey, it's really not good to watch the news. You shouldn't watch the news. Sorry, if you see me right now, I'm taking a sip of coffee. I have a show that I do once in a while called Caffeine with Kevin, because I always have coffee with me. I don't find that as bad. Otherwise, I'd be saying, sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. So, but I watch the news. And I watch the news for this purpose. I watch the news so that if I see something and it gets a feeling come up, I'll clear it. But I've expanded even further from what I've said there. Because when I say I'm sorry, I actually do say or add to it, if anything I did, said, or thought contributed at all to the situation, please forgive me, and I really am asking for forgiveness there. I don't know if that's, if anything, if I'm watching the news, if anything that I could have thought or said or whatever could have actually have contributed to that. But we don't know that, do we? A long time ago, Deepak Chopra was berated for something he said in one of his small groups. And he said something about having been responsible for some part responsibility for a typhoon that happened on the other one. And of course, the world just crushed down and said, what an idiot, in thinking he could possibly be responsible for something like that. Yet, most of the world takes this butterfly effect seriously and says, oh yeah, yes, I believe that someone somewhere could start with a little thing and it turn into a big thing and really make, have an effect on things. Yeah, sure. So, I have that belief that I vibrate at a certain level. And if I've got a negative thoughts going on in my head and in my body, that negativity can affect others. And, mostly it affects the people around you. But could it affect even further? If I'm on the same wavelength with somebody else at that time around the world, who knows? So I clear myself of this stuff when I'm watching this. And in the back of my mind in this prayer is, of course, hopefully this will help anyone and everyone affected by whatever it is I'm watching on TV that was really bad and negative. I actually allow myself to say other prayers along with this at the same time, which I think is really healthy because it reminded me to say those other prayers. So I'm clearing myself. I've got an intention that's very positive for whoever's involved in this. And I find this a great practice because when I'm doing that, the negativity of the news no longer bothers me. Matter of fact, I'm doing it so the negativity of the news doesn't bother me. So I found a more powerful way to use this. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and do it that way. But you're right, the world is interconnected at all sorts of levels. I'm watching the bottom of my screen. You guys have been commenting, and I've been missing most of it. So I apologize for that. And I apologize if the sound is not clear. There might be something with my mic, but hopefully you're getting the most of the message. Anyway, that I do this on a regular basis. And I did that a little also to keep reminding me to do this. So when I'm sitting there watching the news and a feeling pops up, I'll do that. And then I'll be reminded to do that when I'm not watching the news and when that feeling pops up and when this or that happens. So it's really, really powerful. Let me go back here. We've got a little time, and I'm going to open the mics in a minute. But I want to finish this up with saying that we are beings that really are meant to be an open book, to be not filled with the baggage that we've been accumulating all these years of our lives. We really are meant for so much more. And that so much more is hard to get with the baggage. One of the reasons behind Joe Vitale writing this book was he wrote it with the little frame of the reason why law of attraction doesn't work is because you have all this baggage and you got to let go of it. So this was the answer for the rest of the people so that they can clear themselves and allow the law of attraction to work. Law of attraction says anything that you think of the most, you'll attract to you. If you've got baggage going on, you may consciously think of the good things that you think you want, but the baggage is going to bring up the stuff you think that you know you don't want. And so you start thinking about that more and more and more, other than the things you want. Well, the baggage will come up and say, hey, with all the limiting beliefs in the baggage, and say, there's no way you're going to get that. So you'll be thinking about what it is you want, and your back of your mind's got all this chatter going and laughing and stuff like that, and therefore you're not able to focus on what you want in a serious way. So the vibrations don't come out the way they should. So Joe Vitale says, okay, clear this, use this to clear this. And I say the same thing, use this to clear this. Not specifically for the law of attraction, but my experience is when you get rid of your baggage, one way or another, it doesn't matter, but if you can clean yourself up, clear yourself out with that baggage, you can focus on something and find it happening in your life. I've had it happen so many times, and it will work for you. And this is just another tool. And the reason I love this tool so much, there's a lot of tools out there that allow you to clear stuff here and there and do stuff like this. I love this tool because it's spiritual. I love this tool because it has me talking to God. It has me talking to Source so often in a gentle way, in a loving way. And it has me recognizing and looking for gratitude and love. And it's so powerful. Okay. If anyone wants to either ask questions through chat or if they want to unmute themselves, I'll be glad to take comments or questions in any way you can. And I am looking at the chat now, so I won't ignore it. I'll go and unmute.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes, hi, Erin.
I thought it was a great list you put together on the whole Ho'oponopono and everyday life, that how to use it. Because I know myself, I can tend to forget. So this is something I can put together and put in my face, shall we say, and oh gee, I can do that. Besides, you know, what comes to mind, the little highlights that I remember from my own reading about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that because you then have all these reasons to look for, to use it. But you know, all those things we should look for in our life to correct them anyway. You know, the judgments and the beating yourself up and everything. We should be looking to acknowledge, you know, the fine when they happen and change them anyway. And this helps you. You know, I just remember there's one thing I didn't really talk about, because at the beginning we're talking about forgiving somebody. So if you actually have this hatred or this anger towards somebody and you do this and clear the anger out, guess what? You cleared it out You didn't really have to forgive them. All you had to do is clear it out. So really, the forgiveness doesn't happen because the anger's gone. So in essence, this is a shortcut to forgiveness. If forgiveness is such a hard thing for you to do, let me tell you what. Let's forget about the forgiveness and just clear the anger out of your head. And all of a sudden, hey, you've forgiven them. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I love the list. When I came up with that list, I said, oh, this is really powerful. There's some things I hadn't even thought about, and I started thinking about them. So thank you. Anything else? Any other comments?
Yeah, Kevin. So this is I've seen this around here and there. Just, sometimes people post it on Facebook or you see it in wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And, but, I'd never actually had any teaching on it. So I think I told you at the pool party that, last week, just my intuition, I was dealing with a health issue in one of my organs, and I just started using this talking as a way to talk to that organ.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing my own thing with it, which I thought was pretty effective and cool. But I didn't realize till tonight that actually you're not actually talking to something or some person or part of you. You're actually talking to Source. So that was new to me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it is.
but I don't think I want to change what I'm doing. I like doing what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, definitely. What you're doing is great too.
It's a great way to talk to your, if you have any part of you that's not well, or
Exactly.
it's struggling.
Yeah. So, and that's perfect. But you can use this for a lot of other things that that comes up in your life. But yeah, I think if it's working and if it feels good, then you're doing that, Deb. Anyone else have any questions, suggestions?
So Kevin, this is Neil. You hear me? I definitely had a few thoughts about things. So, I think I'm able to break things up into a couple of different components of self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others indirectly through Source, and then forgiveness of others directly. And basically carving out some level of time every day to actually do this. It probably is the most effective thing that you probably could do for yourself.
Yeah, I think it is.
And maybe just carving a time out, maybe even setting a meeting, and all you're doing is forgiving the things that happened in your life. As you were talking about that was the first thing that came to my mind, and I kind of said to myself, I'm the most important person in my life, and the things that I do and the things, those things affect all of those around me as they propagate through the actions of the pond, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty important thing. I think it's probably something that you should suggest.
Yeah.
Carve a period of time out every single day, whether it's 15 minutes, and go through this and see what happens.
That's a great thing. And I think I mentioned at the beginning that I used to, when I was walking, that would be my period of time to do that on a daily basis. But I also got to the point where I actually do it when I have in the moment when it comes up. So after you a period of time, like I mentioned, and then go through everyone in your life and everything in your life that may be causing these things that you need to let go of, and that's great. And it's a meditation. It really is. Thank you for that feedback. Anybody else? All right. Well, if there's no one else, I let you know how you can, if you need to get a hold of me, the real easy way is to go to my website if you don't have my email address. And there are various ways. My email's there, and you can just fill out the form and say, "Hey, Kevin, you told me to do this. Now tell me what I need to do." So, if there's nothing else, then I want to wish you all the best. The vibrational thing, when you have an intention, and I have an intention for all of you. I have an intention for all of you that you may find through this tool or through other things, the ability to release and let go whatever you need to let go. I will, to the list of the people that registered, to all of you, I will be sending a URL of this recording, which will be on my website. And so that if you want to go through this again, you want to write down the list or whatever it is, it'll be there. Okay?
Kevin, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you all for
Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
See you tomorrow night.
Yeah, see you tomorrow night. Take care. Stop my recording.